Hi, everybody, and welcome to our amazing interview with Jackie Sheppard. I have had the pleasure of knowing Jackie now for the past 6 or nearly 7 years, I think, and you've been such an instrumental person in my life and in my health journey, and I'm so grateful to have you in my world. Um, and I just want to let people know Jackie is an author. Jackie has dived into science before Google even came along. So she was the lady in the big old library with the big old science journals and books, and had a fascination with science from such a young age, with a curious mind of, but why is that? And why is that? Um, and I am just so grateful for this woman. So she has written a book called The Silent Killer: Overcoming Emotional, Mental, and Addictive Disorders, and she's currently writing a book at the moment, which is going to be nearly finished this year, calling, I believe it's Overcoming ADD, ADHD, and Autism. So, Jackie, it's a pleasure having you. We've also got Candice Foy on this morning as well, that will be asking questions with Jackie as well. Candice is a physiotherapist for nearly 20 years in Canada, and now helps children, neurodivergent, all sorts of people with activation. So, welcome, ladies. Really happy to have you both here. So, Jackie, over to you first. I'd love you to share with me a bit about your journey, how the fascination came about with the science and the exploring of, how the body hijacks the mind.
Yeah, I became interested first in how nutrition affects behavior. 1967, not a lot of information out there. Early 80s, we moved to Atlanta. I met a research pediatrician. Finding out that I was a teacher, asked me, what do you think about these new diagnoses, ADD, ADHD, and autism? And he said, you think we have better diagnostic tools or more of those children? I said, we definitely have more. He said, what do you think it is? And I said, I think there's something in their body that's affecting their mind. And that's when he said, will you help me? The only thing I had to offer to him is what you might call test animals in the laboratory. I was teaching some elementary students at the time. I'm a high school teacher, but I was tutoring them in reading. And he wanted to check what's wrong in their bodies. So actually, that was my first foray. He poured so much into me. I didn't know he had melanoma and was on a short chain even then. So he just filled me. Every time I would come to my office, it was just as he taught me about the metabolic test. And he is the one that taught me about free radicals. So that was my first.
So he taught you about free radicals.
Yes, it wasn't even called oxidative stress then. They were just beginning to talk about free radicals. And he was way out there in research. So no one else was talking about it. And when he taught me, he took a little prescription pad, drew, a little molecule with free radicals, and explained that it was the cause of disease as well as mental and emotional disorders.
And how long ago was that, Jackie?
The early 80s, I want to say maybe 1982
Wow.
or 83. It was a long time, and actually you didn't talk about free radicals to a lot of people because they really thought you were off your rocker then.
So, Candice, had you ever heard of free radicals, being a physiotherapist? And
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Jackie, because I graduated in 1998 with my physical therapy degree, and literally my first job was at the Children's Hospital, and they were like literally having meetings talking about these neurodivergent kids and what does that look like and how do we categorize them, because it just was becoming more and more prevalent. So yeah, no, I didn't hear about oxidative stress until probably about 5 years ago. And I've been a physio for a few years. So yeah, so I'm super excited to hear more, Jackie, of what you've actually just unpack, like, what was your journey from, hearing about these free radicals, being around kids, and how did you integrate them, right? Like, how did you actually navigate understanding, and then what did you see out of that?
Well, you're going to have to buy my book.
I
But
have
I'm
it.
going to
I've
go
read
ahead
it.
and tell
read
you.
it.
I've read it. I've given it out. I bought
The
it.
one that I'm writing. The one that I'm writing. But
Oh,
yes,
good.
Silent
Okay.
Takeover talks about it too. What happened was when he explained that free radicals are the cause of disease, that as they begin to penetrate the membrane of another molecule, this causes a chain reaction. Wherever the chain reaction is where you'll have the disease, heart, liver, spleen, whatever. And he began to say, see, he was suspecting that the free radicals in these children was causing the inflammation and what we call congestion in their brain. That this is something was wrong, it wasn't working properly in their neuromuscular development and all development. And so that's pretty much where we were going. But actually, it was not till 1985 that the word oxidative stress was coined. Until then, they called it free radical damage. But then they shifted the definition a little bit. We all have free radicals. If you're breathing oxygen, you have free radicals, and you want some. But what you don't want is for the radicals to get high and your antioxidant enzymes go low. That happens in aging. That's why at the very beginning, this was linked to aging. It was probably a few years before they linked it to ADD, ADHD, and autism. I think around the same year, 1985, they started doing blood tests. Right at this point, in at least in America, they were testing them for everything. And so when they were testing them, they found high, unusually high amounts of free radicals in their bodies, like you would find in someone with Parkinson's, for example. They also found, they were like, okay, if they've got high free radicals, do they have low antioxidant production? And of course, you can go in and read these studies. As soon as they started checking them for low antioxidant production, such as glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase, there it was. Children who should have barely measurable oxidative stress, high oxidative stress, low production of antioxidant enzymes, like maybe someone old.
Wow. So how did you then, I mean, you came across, I'd love to hear your story of how you came across activation, NRF2. I know you were in your late 60s, wasn't it, at the time when you actually came across this? So up to then, you were kind of just thinking, how are we going to increase their glutathione production? What are we going to do to try and help people get more up their antioxidants so that you can level out their oxidative stress?
Well, it kept me up at night. We did all sorts of metabolic. After Dr. Murray's death, I became close friends with some multifunctional doctors, asking the same question: what's wrong with these kids? By then, because I'm also a counselor, though, I was asking the same question because we were finding people who were depressed, all happy, go to bed, get up the next day, and clinically wanted to pull the covers over their head. And they didn't have trauma. And we were also going through all of the new drugs that we were getting. And so I was watching so much over here in the counseling world, and a lot of that is in Silent Takeover. But over here in the academic world, I was having to hold my ground with there's something wrong in their body. You think it's their attitude. You think it's their poor parenting. You think it's because of the problems in the world. I'm telling you, there's something wrong in their body. As we tested vitamins and minerals, we found things that were wrong. We found fatty acids, amino acids imbalanced, neurotransmitters were all over the page. So we knew that this was, and when I say we, it's mainly me doing research. My kids say that after I got a computer with Google, I became a monkey with a machine gun. because I could get into all sorts of studies I'd not been able to get into before. And there is where I really began to go, wait a minute, high oxidative stress, low production of antioxidant enzymes, but the antioxidants, and you could probably name a dozen yourself, they did not show up in a blood test that they were working. So every new antioxidant that came out, I usually say, try it, but I never saw any. I saw maybe this much results. We'd, maybe get their vitamins and minerals sorted and put them on antioxidant and everything. And if their mother could get those pills down their throat, we could see this much improvement. So by the time that we moved out to Kansas City, I had quit. I don't charge, so I had quit telling people what I do, because actually I didn't feel like I had an answer. You see, and the important thing, if you take nothing else away from this program, I want you to take this away. If there's something that is so irregular in the body, it's going to affect the mind. So I kept trying on my own to figure out what could we do. And I basically come to the end of the road. Also, just as was mentioned, I had developed short-term memory. Early stage dementia runs in our family. So from about 62 to 65, I began resigning everything I was doing, closed my private school, did everything, because I knew what I had.
Wow.
And because I had watched family members with it, I knew I was walking into a dark tunnel and there would be no light at the end of the tunnel. So I was doing a lot of praying, Lord, don't let me lose my mind. And I believe the reason that I was one of the first people in America to hear about Nerve 2 activation, we didn't call it that then, and start using it, was the answer to that prayer. If some of you have heard me talk before, my chiropractor told me University of Colorado has developed an all-natural pill that's in research at a university for ADD, ADHD, and autism. And she said, I've got an investigative report. If you can, do you want to come to the office and see it? I remember I was barefooted, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and I don't usually go out in public like that. And I said, on my way, and I grabbed some shoes. I didn't dare to hope that an all-natural product could potentially replace the medicines that I hate that they put these kids on. So that's as simple as it happened. I watched the ABC primetime investigative report. I said to her, there's not a pill like this in the world, because I knew had there been one, I would have found it. I started taking it. And you know my story. Within 6 months, my brain was back.
That's amazing.
In that research, so I'll answer your question there. I realized, okay, this is causing my body to make more antioxidant enzymes, such as superoxide dismutase, whose job it is, your body's production of it, can eliminate 1 million free radicals every second, 24 hours a day. And then I was studying glutathione. We'd had all sorts of things about glutathione. There were even lotions with glutathione in them to help kids, and shots and oral and IVs. It didn't last. You can get on YouTube and look at all that. So one day I realized I had started putting former students on what we called Protandim. And they were calling me, telling me all sorts of things. And I was, wait a minute. So I walked into my den one night and I said, honey, it's got to be the glutathione. And he said, yes, darling. He certainly did not want me to tell him why I thought that. That same year, and this is so important, Dr. Martha Herbert, who I have so much respect for, she's probably the top scientist and doctor in America. She's at Harvard, in the field of ADD, ADHD, and autism. About the time that I was going, wait a minute, this pill is making them make more glutathione. It's working. It is absolutely working. Then she does an iChat. You can look it up. She will say in the iChat, I am now convinced that low production of glutathione is the link to ADD, ADHD, and autism. In fact, she says, I'm so convinced I'm going to get a glutathione t-shirt.
Wow.
So it was as simple as that. Then it was 2010 that we found out we didn't have a super antioxidant. We found out that we had an activator for a signaling molecule whose job it's docked in every cell of your body. Its job is to go into the nucleus of the cell, find the damaged DNA, get the message to the survival genes, so that the survival genes will tell the body, make more of these antioxidant enzymes. But it has to be activated. And for us to have what we have, even if we didn't have the rest of our stunningly amazing products, to have what we have, that this little 5-herb synergistic pill can fit in those receptors and activate every cell in your body, do a computer check of every cell in your body, and then message the survival genes. And then as that glutathione starts being made, your own glutathione being made by your own cells, all sorts of things are going to change in your body. It's going to help you drop heavy metals. It's going to hand the heavy metals like lead, for example, over to catalase to get it out of the body. It's going to help you get rid of toxic chemicals. So it's going to drop the inflammation in your brain, in your child's brain, your dog's brain. It doesn't matter, your horse's brain. It's going to drop it significantly.
Candice, how would you have felt if you had known about all of this when you were actually treating children as a physiotherapist?
It's just incredible. And to hear you explain it, Jackie, is you make it so simple. I could just listen to you all day share about it. You just make it sound, it's just so obvious. And other health professionals that I've talked to over the last 3.5 years literally say this is their moral responsibility to let people know we can tap into this. And I think the way that you articulated that so clearly, there's no hype, there's no mystery. It's just so clear clinically what is happening in the brains of those who are struggling, to what we can literally flip a switch and turn on how God's created our bodies to function, right? So just incredible to hear you say that.
Well, I want to say to the 56 people who are listening, one, I'm honored that you would take this time, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're really having some activation, or you wouldn't be able to listen and learn. I want you to know this. You're probably interested in mental, emotional, or addictive disorders, or you're interested in learning and behavior problems because you know somebody or love somebody. Just do the little shake in your head if this is true. Okay, you have something that could change their life. I just got off of a long call this morning explaining, because we're taking this many things, let's drop the bad guys first. So Candice, I have a daughter-in-law who's just finished a degree in neuro something therapy. I say the same thing, whether it's whatever kind of therapy it is, I want you to do it all, but get the landscape of the body corrected first. Mm-hmm. You see, if you've got a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere that's doing this instead of this, let's do that first. Let's get this settled. Glutathione is your best friend for doing it. Glutathione is going to be your best friend for brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries. That's what heals the brain. It's going to not only get rid of the cellular debris while you're sleeping, it's going to start healing. And when we're getting this working, how long is it going to take? I think it usually takes 3 weeks to 6 months in a child. In an adult, I was on with an 80-something-old this morning, and I had to tell them, you're probably looking at 6 or 7 months. But once you get that body functioning, once you get the gut corrected, you're going to the neurotransmitters, as you know, the serotonin, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, everything made in the gut. Then if you got your gut corrected, and this is going to go a long way toward it, you're going to be making neurotransmitters, and they're going to be balancing.
Yes.
So we see that improvement with mental and emotional addictive disorders. I was hoping that Mary, the administrator of an addictive study we did in Minnesota, was going to be able to be on this evening. We put 24 drug addicts on just NRF2 activation, nothing else. And we put them on for 6 months. Out of the 24, 16 completed the study. They all reported that they had quit craving.
Amazing, yeah. Jackie. I would love to touch on just before, because I know that we want to be prevalent to your time and we want to try and get a couple of Q&As and things like that. What's your thoughts on the Axio? You know, we try and do that a lot with children as well, maybe like that they have the Axio drink with the Protandim. What's your thoughts on Axio?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Or did you call?
Yeah, you can.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I thought you were asking someone else. My phone went blip. You have to separate it by, I would say, 2 to 6 hours, because that little tiny green tea in your Axio can ruin the synergy in your NRF2 activation, because there's green tea in both. And this was straight from the horse's mouth, Dr. McCord. Separated if the same ingredients are in 2 products. The most powerful thing that I think, well, those of you, I know you love Axio. It was developed for triathletes for muscle recovery and mental focus. I think the best, if you want to get on YouTube and watch Dr. Jeff Fanning with brain mapping, he shows the use of NRF1, NRF2, and Axio. And he shows how the brain normalizes. For him, it was in 12 days. Why is that? It's because the mitochondria is in such disarray with ADD, ADHD, and autism, as well as mental and emotional disorders. The mitochondria is so challenged. So not only are you lowering the oxidative stress, increasing the production of antioxidant enzymes, you are making new mitochondria. Now, typically in a normal healthy child, we have normal healthy mitochondria. But you think of how many children now are being born with mitochondrial defects. So young mothers, get that mitochondria in your own body sorted out, and then maybe your baby will have a better chance. So we are actually, if you can increase the production of mitochondria or revitalize challenged mitochondria, the number one thing that's challenging your mitochondria is your electromagnetic fields. You think about these babies. They are born from wombs. Any baby that's born now already overexposed to electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
So what if you can change that? And for people who talk about it being too expensive, yeah, our products are expensive. The economy's bad and our products are expensive, but quit buying whatever you've got to quit buying to get these down into your family.
You know, I heard Dr. Silverman talk about that she was on a quest, the Russian doctor in Canada, and she said, I want to see Protandim like salt and pepper on every single table in every single home. Everyone. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll get it for my child or I'll get it. But if they can afford nothing and can go for one, it's Protandim, NRF2 for everyone in the house. And children can these, like with the proportions with kids, it goes on a weightage, isn't it?
Yeah. So Chief Pediatrician has given dosages. You could probably speak to that as well, Jackie, just in terms of based on weight for kids, so that they don't need a full tablet. They can actually, metabolize, and they only need maybe a quarter of a tablet or a half a tablet. So you've probably found that as well, Jackie. Do you find that it's better to do a specific time of day for kids with that kind of dosing, or twice a day?
You all can imagine me when I had access to just sit and talk with Dr. McCord. It was just, and one of the things he said was a third of a pill for 20 pounds.
Third of a pill for 20 pounds. Okay.
So
Hello,
at
how are
60
you?
pounds, you'll have to convert to Australian. At
All right.
60 pounds, you can take a pill. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. Or do you do pounds in Australia or stones?
It would be about 8 kilos. 8 kilos for 20 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.